My name's Karen Dobres. I'm an elected director at Lewes Football Club, which is 100% community owned and uses football as a vehicle for social change. So the campaigning is just as important as the football, and they go hand in hand. Personally speaking, I mean, for me to be a director of a football club is absolutely crazy, by the way, because I never have liked football. All my life I thought football was a men's thing, and the idea of paying the women the same as the men was very interesting to me, because I'm a feminist, and and I say that proudly, and I think everybody should. I think it's really hard to argue with the fairness of equality, first of all. So that didn't stop some people. Some mainly male people said, this is ridiculous, you can't pay the women as much because women's football isn't as entertaining as men's, and you don't get the same crowds, and therefore you don't get the same sponsors. It's market forces, you're mad, it doesn't make sense. So first of all, the way we introduced the campaign was, I think, very clever, because we appealed to men through their relationship with their daughters. And we said, if you had a son and a daughter, why would you give more to your son than your daughter?
How do you tell your daughter that even if she trains really hard, develops her skills and learns how to score goals like Carly Lloyd, she's only ever going to be worth as much as one of Gareth Bale's fingers? Or possibly two of Wayne Rooney's. I think we can all guess what she's going to think of that. How do you tell your daughter that even if she shows the same skills, the same commitment, trains just as hard and cares just as much, she's always going to be valued less than her little brother? This is clearly going to be a very difficult conversation for you both, which is why we've decided it's time to make a stand, so that none of us have to tell our daughters this type of stuff. Lewes Football Club is going to be the first pro or semi-pro club in the world to pay its women's team the same as its men. Partly because it's just the right thing to do for all of this lot, but partly so that you'll never have to tell your daughter why she's always going to be worth less than her brother. Sounds like a bit of a win-win, doesn't it, really? Equality FC. A level playing field for women.
The main reaction was, wow, this is amazing. This is wonderful. Thank you very much. It's inspirational. Why haven't other football clubs done this? It's brilliant that you're the first in the world, but it's shameful as well, So it kind of raised awareness of the hugely sexist but often invisible sexism, because nobody talks about it, that's present in the world of football. Then the third reaction would have been just ridicule. This is ridiculous. You're doing it for publicity. You don't really mean it. It's just a ridiculous stunt. It's like a publicity stunt. So there was sort of angry defensiveness about that the women don't deserve it. There was great, huge support, and then there was, this is just a publicity stunt, you don't really mean it, it's ridiculous. And also I was talking to women players who clearly had normalised this huge misogyny and sexism to such an extent that they didn't notice it anymore, because they just wanted to play football for the passion in their hearts, and they were willing to accept crumbs from the men's tables. And we were all getting more and more fired up, really, at Lewes. We were kind of radicalising ourselves and telling other people, and they were coming along, and it was great, because actually we were getting all angry and radical, but there was something to do about it. We could go to a match and support the women, and also it was so entertaining and so much fun. So there was this kind of, we were being activists through the medium of football, which is what Lewes is all about. We use football as an engine for social change. It's not just gender equality, we do other things as well. If I see football sometimes as a kind of microcosm of the patriarchy in general, because it's so clear in football, how the structures exist that keep women undervalued and less visible and unable to speak up for themselves. It's really clear in football, so it's really useful. It's a really helpful way to look at what happens in wider society. When you look at even Lewes FC or which is a great club and trying to do its best, even there, it's, you know, on the board, for example, there's still a lot of unconscious sexism, and we all need to change and step up. So how do we hear women's voices, like you say? How do we use inclusion to really allow women to step up? And I'm going to say allow, because although it is about taking responsibility, and I do take responsibility, I do it with a lot of support, right? So there are so many amazing male allies at the football club.
Do you think you've changed minds there? Have those people who in 2017 were saying this is crazy, you're mad, the value isn't the same?
There have been men who have, I won't name anyone, and I hope they don't mind me saying this, but, you know, who have changed via the equality campaign, for sure. So, you know, we've got so many lovely volunteers there, and there are some who would have said to me, who did say to me, I'd rather watch the county boys than the ladies play. What's the point of watching the ladies? You know, all this equality, you know. And in 2017, a crowd for a women's game was round about 120, 150. 2 seasons later, it's like 580, 590 average. So we've quadrupled the gate figure, which in monetary terms is huge to the club. And the men's gate has gone up too. So in a way, we've proven that wrong simply through our actions. Now, those same men come to women's matches. So we can have conversations with men who might not normally be talking about this kind of thing, and might not be dialoguing about this kind of thing. We're in the perfect environment to change hearts and minds that maybe you wouldn't normally reach in a conversation about gender equality. So we've definitely, raised awareness for sure, and changed ourselves. So there are definitely men who have changed, but I've changed too as a woman, and our players have changed as women, and some of the male players are much more aware. But what I notice is more and more that it's really hard for women to step up in a man's world without men supporting and changing themselves first, almost. I don't want to, I'm all for taking responsibility and taking action, and I don't want to be a victim. That's the last thing I want to be. But I have to say that without the support of men, there's no way that I could do what I'm doing and that things would change. Oh my God, Bonetta, we're taught so many rubbish things as women, right, in terms of social conditioning. Like we're really taught that, we have to be perfect before we can say anything, whereas men can just wing it, and they'll apply. There's so many statistics. They'll apply for a job even if they don't meet all the criteria, whereas a woman will not apply unless she's literally got 100% there, and then she's plucked up the courage to go into that room. But we need to be aware of these differences so that we can change ourselves a bit.
As a team, would you say that they have grabbed something different, or is it simply that it's just there for the taking now?
In some ways, you have to separate their football from because none of those players have joined Lewes because of our equality campaign. So they've joined because they want to play football at that level. And it's when they come along that they find out more about that. So what I realise is what the players have automatically learned in their footballing careers, and what they have learned how to fail and how to get back up again. And resilience is a huge thing for girls to learn. I've personally learned this, right? I had to go and present at an APPG for sports, modern slavery, and human rights. Yeah, and I went with a footballer that's not with us anymore. She's in Thailand, I think, Shannon. And Shannon had played for Tottenham Hotspur, and she was at Lewes, and she was brilliant. And she and I got on the train, and we were really nervous because we'd never been to the Houses of Parliament to speak before. And she said, she said, look at my Instagram. And I looked at her Instagram, and she'd put a picture of her kind of going, going to the Houses of Parliament. And she had this, she'd put on her lippy, and she was like, whoa. And she'd basically put she'd put #game on, which is what she puts on a Sunday morning when she's playing football that day. And I thought, oh my God, she's applying her game face to this meeting. Go against the stereotypes, whether it's, whether you think that, you don't want to wear shorts, or that you want, I don't know, somehow you're going to lose friends if you are competitive or assertive, or you think that you won't look nice on a, just no, this is so vital. It works for everybody, because the minute we let girls and women be strong and powerful, we allow all these young men who are committing suicide before they feel okay about talking about their problems. We allow them to be vulnerable, to seek help, to cry, all these stupid things thoughts that we have, that we think we can't be who we really are, and we can't be accepted for who we really are.
That's a human rights issue, and you're exactly right to talk about the stereotypes that we impose on the men just as much as we impose them on the women, because if we can free up one part of that spectrum, then we can do it for the others. Everyone is freer.
Absolutely true. This is why I believe in intersectionality. You can't just free up. Everything is codependent on everything else. They're all stacked up together. Once you do one thing, it's going to affect another thing. So it's a myth that we're islands. This is all a complete myth. We're all so connected. Who are you not to shine? Just be yourself, because the minute you are, you give other people the permission to be themselves. And that's what I like about women's football. It just gives everybody a different angle on the world. I just think women's football has the potential to change the world in it through the releasing of stereotypes. And I love Lewes Football Club for that reason. It's there are so many things about it that I love. Actually, I love the social ownership. I love the campaigning, and I love the fact that it's using the platform to actually do good. Because what is the point of having a platform like being in the Championship, or having 500 people meet regularly in a public place a few times a month? What's the point of having those platforms if you're not actually changing the world with it? Because the world's in a state.